Nigeria just announced a massive expansion of its international security partnerships, and this could fundamentally reshape West Africa's security landscape. We're talking about deepened ties with France, renewed US military support, and fresh engagement with European Union leaders, all as Boko Haram, banditry, and separatist movements continue to threaten Africa's most populous nation. I am breaking down exactly what these new partnerships mean, who is backing who, and why this matters for every single African country watching Nigeria's next moves. Let's dive in. Before we get into the details, like this video help more Africans see this story. Now, let's set the stage. Nigeria today faces what security analysts call a multidimensional security crisis. In the northeast, Boko Haram and its splinter group ISWAP continue their 14-year insurgency. In the northwest and north-central regions, armed bandits have kidnapped thousands, including entire school classes. In the southeast, the indigenous people of Biafra movement has clashed with federal forces. And across the Middle Belt, farmer-herder conflicts have displaced millions. The numbers tell the story. Over 350,000 Nigerians have died in various conflicts since 1999. More than 3 million people are internally displaced. The economic cost. Conservative estimates put it at over $50 billion annually, that's money Nigeria desperately needs for development, infrastructure, and job creation for its 220 million citizens. But here's what makes this moment different. Nigeria isn't just fighting these battles alone anymore. President Bola Tinubu's administration has made international security partnerships a top priority, recognizing that 21st century security challenges require 21st century solutions. Historically, Nigeria has been cautious about foreign military involvement. The country's founding fathers, fresh from colonial rule, embedded principles of non-alignment and sovereignty into the national DNA. But reality has a way of forcing adaptations. When your military is stretched across multiple fronts, when terrorist groups are using sophisticated weapons and tactics, when criminal networks operate across porous borders, sometimes you need help. Let's talk about what is actually happening right now. First, the France connection. This one surprised many analysts because Nigeria has traditionally been in Britain's sphere of influence while France dominated the Francophone Sahel. But with France pulling troops out of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger after military coups, Paris is looking for new partners. Nigeria offers exactly what France needs: a stable democracy, a strong economy, and shared concerns about jihadist movements spreading south from the Sahel. The partnership includes intelligence sharing, joint training exercises, and what sources describe as logistical support. Translation. France gets to maintain some influence in West Africa while Nigeria gets access to French counterterrorism expertise honed through years of fighting in the Sahel. Then there is the United States relationship, which has been Nigeria's most consistent security partner. American military aid to Nigeria exceeded $1.6 billion between 2012 and 2020. The partnership includes training for Nigerian special forces, provision of surveillance equipment, and intelligence sharing through AFRICOM. What's new is the expanded scope. The US is now providing more sophisticated equipment and deeper intelligence cooperation as both countries recognize the regional implications of Nigerian instability. Subscribe for honest, Pan-African analysis you want to find on CNN or BBC. The European Union engagement represents perhaps the most interesting development. EU leaders, meeting with Nigerian officials in recent weeks, have offered a comprehensive package that goes beyond traditional military aid. We're talking about border management technology, cybersecurity cooperation, and what EU officials called civilian security enhancement. But who are the real players here? Let's break down the key stakeholders and their motivations. For Nigeria, President Tinubu faces enormous pressure to deliver on security. His predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, was elected partly on promises to defeat Boko Haram, promises that remained unfulfilled after 8 years. Tinubu knows that economic development, his other major promise, is impossible without security. International partnerships offer him access to expertise, technology, and resources that Nigeria's military budget simply cannot provide alone. The Nigerian military itself has been pushing for these partnerships. Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa has been vocal about the need for force multiplication through strategic alliances. Nigerian officers trained by American, British, and now French forces return with new tactics, better understanding of modern warfare, and critically, experience in insurgency cooperation that Nigerian security forces have historically lacked. For the international partners, motivations vary but overlap significantly. The United States sees Nigeria as crucial for regional stability. If Nigeria fails, the implications cascade across West Africa. American officials worry about terrorist safe havens, refugee crisis, and the potential for state collapse in Africa's largest economy. France's calculation is more complex. After losing influence in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, Paris desperately needs African partners who actually want French involvement. Nigeria offers that opportunity, plus access to Africa's largest economy and most dynamic tech sector. French companies are already major players in Nigerian telecommunications and finance. Security cooperation opens doors for deeper economic integration. The EU's approach reflects post-Brexit repositioning. European leaders want to counter Chinese and Russian influence in Africa while addressing root causes of migration to Europe. Nigeria, with its massive youth population and growing economy, represents both opportunity and risk for European interest. But this expansion isn't happening without pushback and concerns. Critics argue that increased foreign military involvement could undermine Nigerian sovereignty and create dependency. Civil society groups worry about human rights implications. Will international partners turn a blind eye to military excesses in exchange for cooperation? Some point to examples from the Sahel where foreign military support failed to prevent state collapse. There is also the question of effectiveness. Senator Shehu Sani, a prominent northern politician, recently argued that no amount of foreign military support will succeed if we don't address the economic and social roots of insecurity. He has a point. Bandits don't emerge from vacuum. They come from communities devastated by poverty, climate change, and weak governance. Regional perspectives are equally mixed. Some West African leaders privately welcome anything that might stabilize Nigeria. Nigerian instability affects everyone from Ghana to Cameroon. But others worry about setting precedents. If Nigeria normalizes extensive foreign military partnerships, what stops other countries from doing the same? Could this trigger a new scramble for Africa among global powers? Let us zoom out and consider what this means for Africa as a whole. Nigeria's security partnerships could accelerate a broader trend toward what scholars call networked security governance. Instead of purely national approaches to security challenges, African countries are increasingly recognizing that terrorism, organized crime, and climate-induced conflicts cross borders. Effective responses require international cooperation. This could strengthen African agency in global affairs, if done right. Nigeria negotiating partnerships with multiple powers simultaneously demonstrates that African countries don't have to choose sides in great power competition. They can leverage relationships with the US, Europe, and potentially China and Russia to serve African interests. But there are risks. History shows that foreign military partnerships can become entangling alliances. Will Nigeria maintain strategic autonomy, or will it gradually find itself bound to serve others' interests? The example of France's relationships with Francophone Africa, relationships that ultimately generated resentment and instability, offers cautionary lessons. For other African countries, Nigeria's approach could provide a template. Countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, and Ghana are watching closely. If Nigeria's partnerships prove effective, expect similar arrangements across the continent. If they fail or create new problems, the backlash could strengthen isolationist tendencies in African politics. Economically, successful security partnerships could unlock Nigeria's enormous potential. Foreign investors consistently cite security as their top concern about Nigerian markets. Improved security could accelerate the growth of Nigeria's tech sector, boost agricultural productivity, and attract manufacturing investment. That would create jobs for Nigeria's massive youth population and reduce some of the economic pressures that fuel insecurity in the first place. Subscribe and hit the bell for more analysis on how African countries are navigating global power shifts. Looking ahead, several factors will determine whether Nigeria's expanded security partnerships succeed or fail. First, coordination between international partners. If American, French, and European approaches conflict or compete, the result could be confusion rather than enhanced capability. Nigeria needs its partners to work together, not against each other. Second, integration with regional security efforts. Nigeria's partnerships must complement, not compete with, ECOWAS and African Union security initiatives. The goal should be strengthening African capacity, not replacing it with foreign alternatives. Third, civilian oversight and human rights protection. International partners have leverage to insist on accountability measures. If they fail to use that leverage, security gains could come at the cost of democratic governance and human rights, undermining long-term stability. Finally, addressing root causes. Military partnerships can contain security threats, but they cannot eliminate the poverty, inequality, and weak governance that generate those threats in the first place. Nigeria's success will ultimately depend on coupling security improvements with genuine development progress. The stakes could not be higher. Nigeria's choices will influence security dynamics across West Africa and potentially the entire continent. Success could demonstrate that African countries can leverage international partnerships while maintaining sovereignty and serving their people's interest. Failure could reinforce narratives about African state weakness and foreign dependency. Check out this next video where I analyze how Ghana is positioning itself in the changing West African security landscape. It is a fascinating contrast to Nigeria's approach. The coming months will be crucial as these partnerships move from announcements to implementation. Will international support help Nigeria turn the tide against insecurity? Or will it create new complications and dependencies? The answers will shape not just Nigeria's future, but the future of African sovereignty and security cooperation in the 21st century. What do you think? Are these partnerships a smart strategic move by Nigeria, or do they represent a concerning erosion of African independence? Comment your thoughts below. I read every single comment and your perspectives always add valuable insights to these discussions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next analysis.